Before we start, I want to take a moment to thank you. Sharing these stories is terrifying. There's always a voice in my head saying no one will believe me, that I'm making it sound worse than it was, that maybe I deserved what happened. But then I see the comments, the messages from people saying me too, or I understand, or you're not crazy, and it helps more than I can express. Please consider subscribing if these stories help you feel less alone. Now, let me tell you about the man I thought I knew, and the night I finally understood what he'd been doing. I met Daniel in the spring of 2004 at a bookstore in Portland, Oregon. I was 28, working as a paralegal at a small law firm downtown. He was 33, a software developer for a startup that was doing something with database management that I didn't fully understand. We both reached for the same copy of a biography of Eleanor Roosevelt. Our hands touched, and he smiled at me with this warm, slightly crooked smile that made my stomach flip. "You take it," he said. "I can come back for it." "We could share," I heard myself say, surprising myself with my boldness. "Trade-off chapters?" He laughed. "That's either very trusting or very optimistic. Maybe both." We got coffee instead of reading the book, then dinner, then a second date and a third, and suddenly 3 months had passed and I was in love with Daniel Reeves in a way I'd never been in love before. He was smart and funny and kind. He remembered little things I said. He brought me soup when I was sick. He listened when I talked about work stress and seemed genuinely interested in my opinions. We got married in 2006, small ceremony, just family and close friends, at a vineyard in the Willamette Valley. It was perfect. He was perfect. Our life together felt like something I'd won in a lottery I hadn't even known I'd entered. We bought a house in the Selwood neighborhood, a little craftsman bungalow with a porch and a backyard where we talked about eventually having kids. Daniel's career was going well. His startup had been acquired, he'd gotten a significant payout, and he'd taken a position at Intel with a comfortable salary and good benefits. We weren't rich, but we were stable, comfortable, happy. Or at least I thought we were happy. Looking back now, I can see the small signs, but at the time, they seemed like nothing. Just quirks, preferences, the normal compromises of married life. Daniel liked routines. He wanted dinner at 6:30. He wanted the house kept a certain way, not messy, but not obsessively clean either, just organized, as he called it. He had opinions about how I dressed, what I ate, how I spent my free time, but he never presented them as demands. It was always suggestions, gentle guidance. "That dress is nice, but the blue one looks better on you. Do you really need a second glass of wine? I'm just worried about you, babe. You seem stressed. Maybe you should cut back on how many hours you're working." I thought he was being caring, attentive. I didn't realize he was slowly shaping me into someone easier to control. The tea started about 2 years into our marriage, around 2008. I'd been having trouble sleeping, stress from work, some anxiety I couldn't quite shake. I'd lie awake at night with my mind racing, worrying about cases at the firm, about money, about whether we'd ever actually have kids, or if we were just going to keep saying eventually until it was too late. Daniel noticed. Of course he noticed. He noticed everything. "You need to relax," he said one night after I'd tossed and turned for an hour. "You're going to make yourself sick." I can't turn my brain off. "Have you tried chamomile tea? My mom used to make it for me when I was a kid and couldn't sleep. It helps." The next night, he brought me a cup, a white ceramic mug, steam rising off the pale golden liquid, smelling faintly of flowers and something else I couldn't identify. "I made you tea," he said, setting it on my nightstand. "Drink it before bed. It'll help." It did help. I drank the tea, and within 20 minutes I felt drowsy and calm. I slept through the night for the first time in weeks, so it became a routine. Every night, Daniel would make me tea. He'd bring it to me around 9:30, and I'd drink it while reading or watching TV, and then I'd go to bed and sleep deeply, dreamlessly until morning. It was nice. It felt like he was taking care of me. I didn't question it. Why would I? It was just tea. Months passed, years. The tea became such a normal part of my life that I stopped noticing it. It was just what we did. Daniel made tea. I drank it. I slept well. Simple. But other things started changing, small things at first. I started forgetting things, little things. Where I'd put my keys, whether I'd paid a bill, conversations I'd supposedly had but had no memory of. Daniel would tell me I'd agreed to something, and I'd have no recollection of it, but he'd seem so certain that I'd doubt my own memory. Remember? We talked about this last week. You said it was fine if I went golfing on Saturday. I don't remember saying that. You were tired. You probably just forgot. You've been forgetting a lot lately. He was right. I had been forgetting a lot. It worried me. I was only 32 years old. I shouldn't be this forgetful. Maybe it was stress. Maybe I was working too hard. Maybe something was wrong with me. I started making mistakes at work, missing deadlines, forgetting meetings, losing track of case details. My boss, a tough woman named Patricia, who'd always liked me, called me into her office. "Jennifer, is everything okay?" she asked. "This isn't like you." "I know, I'm sorry. I've just been really scattered lately." "Is something going on at home?" "No, everything's fine. I think I'm just tired." "Maybe you should see a doctor. Get some blood work done. Make sure everything's okay." I made an appointment, but then I forgot to go. Daniel reminded me the day after, sounding concerned. "You missed your doctor's appointment," he said. "I did? When was it?" "Yesterday at 2. I reminded you at breakfast, remember?" I didn't remember, but I smiled and apologized and promised to reschedule. I felt like I was losing my mind. More time passed. My forgetfulness got worse. I started having gaps in my memory, whole evenings where I couldn't quite remember what I'd done. I'd be sitting on the couch watching a movie with Daniel, and then suddenly it would be 3 hours later, and I'd be in bed with no memory of how I got there. "Did I fall asleep?" I asked Daniel one morning. "Yeah, you conked out during the movie. I carried you to bed." "I don't remember that at all." "You were exhausted. You've been working too hard." I tried to cut back on work, but that made things worse. I had more free time but less energy. I felt foggy all the time, like I was moving through water. My thoughts were slow, my reactions were delayed. Friends stopped calling, or maybe I stopped answering. I couldn't remember which. My mom called one day, her voice tight with worry. "Jennifer, honey, are you okay? I haven't heard from you in 2 months." "Has it been 2 months?" "Yes, I've left messages. You haven't called back." "I'm sorry, Mom. I've just been really busy." "Are you sure everything's okay? You sound different." "I'm fine, just tired." Daniel was always there, always supportive, always concerned. He'd stroke my hair when I was confused, bring me tea to help me relax, tell me everything was going to be okay. He suggested I quit my job. "You're burning out, Jen. This job is killing you. We don't need the money. I make enough for both of us. Why don't you just take some time off, focus on getting healthy?" It made sense. I couldn't keep going like this. So I quit. Patricia seemed relieved, honestly. I think she'd been planning to fire me anyway. Without work, I had nothing to do. I'd sleep late, wake up foggy, wander around the house, nap in the afternoon. Daniel would come home and make dinner, and we'd watch TV and he'd bring me tea and I'd sleep. The days blurred together. I stopped seeing friends, stopped going out. The world outside our house felt overwhelming. Too bright, too loud, too much. It was easier to just stay home, stay with Daniel, drink my tea, sleep. I don't know how long this went on. Months? A year? Time stopped making sense. The night everything changed started like any other night. Daniel made dinner, chicken and vegetables, something healthy because he was always worried about my health. We ate in front of the TV. He brought me tea in the white ceramic mug. I drank it. But this time something was different. I was tired, like always, but not quite as tired. My mind felt slightly less foggy, and I noticed something I'd never noticed before. The tea tasted strange, bitter underneath the floral chamomile flavor, like there was something else in it. I looked at Daniel. He was watching TV relaxed, not paying attention to me. I held the mug in my hands, looking at the pale liquid. How many nights had I drunk this tea? Hundreds, thousands? And I'd never once questioned it, never once asked what was in it besides chamomile. I felt a prickle of unease, a small voice in my head, the voice that had been getting quieter and quieter over the years, whispered, "Something's wrong." "Daniel," I said, "what's in this tea?" He glanced at me. "What do you mean?" "I mean, what's in it? What kind of tea is it?" "Chamomile, like always. Why?" "It tastes weird tonight. Maybe I steeped it too long, don't worry about it." But I was worrying about it. For the first time in years, my mind felt almost clear enough to worry. "I think I'm going to skip it tonight," I said. Something flickered across his face. Annoyance? Concern? It was gone too fast for me to read. "You need it to sleep," he said. "I'll try sleeping without it." "Jen, you haven't slept without the tea in years. You'll be up all night." "Maybe that's okay." "Don't be ridiculous. Just drink it." His tone had shifted, less gentle suggestion, more command. I stared at him, this man I'd been married to for 12 years, and I realized I was afraid. When had I become afraid of my husband? "I don't want it," I said quietly. "Jennifer?" His voice was hard now. "Drink the tea." "No." We stared at each other. The TV was still playing, some late-night talk show, laugh track echoing through the room. But all I could hear was my own heartbeat. "What's going on?" Daniel asked. "Why are you being like this?" "Like what?" "Difficult?" "I'm not being difficult. I just don't want tea tonight." "You need it." "Why? Why do I need it?" "Because you can't sleep without it." "How do you know? Maybe I could sleep fine without it. Maybe I've been drinking it so long I don't even know what normal sleep feels like anymore." He stood up, walked over to where I was sitting, loomed over me. He'd never felt physically threatening before, but in that moment he did. "Drink the tea?" "No." He grabbed the mug from my hands. For a second I thought he was going to force me to drink it, pour it down my throat. But instead he just stood there holding it, his jaw tight, his eyes cold. "Fine," he said finally. "Don't drink it. See if I care. But don't come crying to me at 3 a.m. when you can't sleep." He walked into the kitchen. I heard him pour the tea down the sink. Then he went upstairs without another word. I sat on the couch, shaking. What had just happened? Why had he reacted that way? It was just tea, wasn't it? I didn't sleep that night. Daniel had been right about that. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind racing for the first time in years. And as the fog slowly lifted, I started remembering things. I remembered feeling sharp and clear before the tea started. I remembered being good at my job, having friends, having energy. I remembered being myself. I remembered Daniel's suggestions that had slowly become expectations, his gentle guidance that had slowly become control. I remembered all those nights of drinking tea and feeling drowsy within minutes, sleeping deeply, too deeply, waking up with gaps in my memory. The next morning, Daniel acted like nothing had happened. He made breakfast, kissed my forehead, told me he loved me, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply, terribly wrong. After he left for work, I went into the kitchen. I found the tea tin in the cabinet, the one Daniel always used, the one with the handwritten label that said chamomile blend. I opened it. It looked like tea, dried flowers and leaves, but when I smelled it, there was that bitter undertone again. I took the tin. I got in my car, realized I hadn't driven in months, could barely remember the last time I'd left the house alone, and I drove to a pharmacy. "I need to test something," I told the pharmacist, a middle-aged man with glasses. "I think there might be something in this tea besides chamomile." He looked at me for a long moment. "Ma'am, if you think someone is drugging you, you should call the police." "I don't know if that's what's happening. I just need to know what's in here." "We can't test substances here, but I can give you the number for a toxicology lab. They can test it for you." I took the number. I called from the parking lot. They said I could bring the tea in, they'd test it, results in a few days. I drove there immediately. 3 days later, they called me back. "Mrs. Reeves, this is Dr. Patterson from the lab. We've completed the analysis on your sample." "What did you find?" "In addition to chamomile and some other standard herbs, we found significant amounts of diphenhydramine and doxylamine. Those are antihistamines commonly found in over-the-counter sleep aids. There were also trace amounts of lorazepam, which is a benzodiazepine, a prescription anxiety medication." The room spun. "Someone put those in the tea?" "Yes, the concentrations were quite high. If you've been consuming this regularly, it would explain significant drowsiness, memory problems, cognitive impairment. Long-term use could cause dependency and serious health effects." "How long could I have been taking this without realizing?" "That's hard to say. But based on the symptoms you described, memory loss, extreme fatigue, cognitive fog, possibly years." Years. Daniel had been drugging me for years. I sat in my car outside the toxicology lab, gripping the steering wheel, trying to process this information. My husband, the man I'd loved, the man I'd trusted, the man who brought me tea every night as an act of love, had been systematically poisoning me. Why? The answer came slowly, piecing together fragments of memory, the suggestions that became rules, the way he'd isolated me from friends and family, the way he'd gotten me to quit my job, the way he'd made me dependent on him for everything. He'd been making me easier to control. The tea had kept me docile, confused, unable to think clearly enough to question anything. It had turned me into someone who would just do whatever he said, who didn't have the energy or mental clarity to push back. I'd become his puppet, and I hadn't even known it. I drove home in a daze. Daniel wasn't home yet. He'd be at work for another few hours. I had time to think, time to decide what to do. I could confront him, I could call the police, I could pack a bag and leave. I ended up doing all three. I packed a bag first, clothes, documents, my laptop, the lab results. I put it all in my car. Then I called the police non-emergency line and explained the situation. They said they'd send an officer to the house. Then I waited for Daniel to come home. He arrived at 6 like always, smiled when he saw me, like always, kissed my cheek, like always. "How was your day?" he asked. "Interesting," I said. "I found out what was in the tea." His smile froze. "What?" "The tea you've been giving me every night for years. I had it tested. Diphenhydramine, doxylamine, lorazepam. You've been drugging me." The mask dropped. For the first time I saw his real face, cold, calculating, angry. "You had it tested?" His voice was flat. "Yes." "That was stupid, Jennifer." "Was it? I thought it was pretty smart, actually." "You don't understand. I was helping you. You were anxious. You couldn't sleep. The medication helped." "Medication I didn't know I was taking. Medication I never consented to. That's not help, Daniel. That's poisoning. Don't be dramatic. I called the police. They're on their way. His face went white, then red. Then he lunged at me. I ran. I'm not proud of it, but I ran. Out the front door to my car, fumbling with the keys while he chased after me, yelling. I got in, locked the doors, and he was pounding on the window, screaming things I couldn't make out through the glass, and my own panic. Then I heard the sirens. The police arrived, 2 officers, a man and a woman. They talked to me in my car. They talked to Daniel on the lawn. They went inside the house and found the tea tin, which I'd left on the counter. They looked at my lab results. They arrested him. He kept yelling as they put him in handcuffs. She's lying. She's making this up. She's been mentally unstable for years. But the evidence didn't lie. The lab results didn't lie. My medical records, which we obtained later, showed a pattern of increasing cognitive issues starting right around the time the tea ritual began. Daniel Reeves was charged with assault and domestic violence. The drugging fell into a legal gray area. He claimed he'd been trying to help me with over-the-counter sleep aids, and the prescription medication had been his own lorazepam that he'd shared. His lawyer argued there was no intent to harm. My lawyer argued that secretly drugging your spouse for years constituted abuse regardless of intent. It took 18 months for the case to wind through the court system. In the end, Daniel pleaded guilty to a lesser charge and got 2 years of probation, mandatory counseling, and a permanent restraining order keeping him away from me. It didn't feel like enough, but it was something. The divorce was faster. I got the house. He didn't contest it. I think his lawyer advised him it would look bad if he fought me on anything after what had come out in the criminal case. It's been 6 years now. I'm 46 years old. I live alone in a different house, in a different neighborhood. I sold the Craftsman bungalow. I couldn't stand to be there anymore, couldn't walk past the kitchen where he'd prepared the tea night after night. I went back to work. It took time to rebuild my skills, to shake off the lingering effects of years of drugging. But I did it. I'm a paralegal again, at a bigger firm now, doing work I'm proud of. I sleep fine without the tea. It turns out I never needed it. I just needed to not be drugged. I still have bad days, days where I doubt my own memory or judgment, where I second-guess myself because I spent years being told my perceptions were wrong. But I'm working with a therapist who specializes in abuse recovery, and she's helping me rebuild my sense of reality. I don't date. I'm not ready. Maybe I never will be. The idea of trusting someone again, of letting someone close enough to hurt me, it terrifies me. But I'm okay. I have friends again. I talk to my mom every week. I have a life that belongs to me. Sometimes I think about Daniel. I wonder if he understands what he did, if he tells himself some story where he was the good guy, where he was just trying to help his sick wife. I wonder if he does it to someone else now, if there's another woman somewhere drinking tea and feeling foggy and not knowing why. I hope not, but I don't know. What I do know is this: trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. If you're losing time, losing memories, losing yourself, pay attention, ask questions. Don't let anyone tell you you're just tired, just stressed, just imagining things. You're not crazy. You're not ungrateful. You're not difficult. You're being hurt, and you deserve better. The tea was just tea until it wasn't, and by the time I figured out what was really in that white ceramic mug, I'd lost years of my life to a fog I didn't create and couldn't escape. But I did escape eventually. I got out. I'm free. And every night before bed I drink water. Just water. Clear and simple and exactly what it appears to be. That's enough.